Traveling Unplugged, Season 1, Around the World. Oh, there goes Mama! And action!
Would you believe me? Would you listen if I told you that there is a love that makes a way and never holds you back? So won't you break free? Won't you break free? Get up and dance and here's the love.
I've just turned 18 years old. I'm traveling around the globe for 11 months. Already I've been to India, Thailand, went to Kuala Lumpur, hit Australia where I went to Perth, Adelaide, did the Great Ocean Road all the way to Melbourne, went up to Sydney and had such an awesome time with the family in Brisbane. And yeah, surprise! For my 18th birthday, I was surprised by my mother and we have missioned on to New Zealand where we got ourselves a camper van and already we've got stuck on the infamous 90-miler beach. Yet all's good. Hey, this is Traveling Unplugged. Aotearoa. Now, what is this? Okay, so the North Island of New Zealand is referred to as that, and it basically means the land of the long white cloud. Yeah, my mom and I are still on a mission and we're going to be going to Maori villages, going to be learning more about the Maori cultures, and hey, just doing the whole Traveling Unplugged deal. So we're going through this little town, it's called Whitianga. Remember in New Zealand, WH is up. So passing through this quaint little town, you see this box. The honesty box is very interesting. What you're looking at here is an honesty box. So this is the deal. There's no one standing there selling the stuff. They've got all their merchandise on sale. And then there's just a little box, and on the box it says thank you, and that's that. Just got these kiwis. Put the money in, it's easy like that. Just gotta be honest. You take whatever you want, and you put in your money and put it in the box. Hey, it's honesty. It's amazing. The country of honesty. Then my mom and I got to this place called Mount Manganui. Very interesting. And there was some phenomenal kite surfing happening there. This is just one of the beautiful places. I'll show you. On our trip again, and our big stop for that night was called Rotorua, and you guys see this place, man. Whoa, they've got hot springs coming out of the ground, these huge clouds of steam or whatever it is. Yeah, steam. So we got to Camper Van Park, Cottage International Holiday Park, and yes, they had hot pools for us. It's amazing. Now what the thermal pools are, they're pools, water coming from underground, hot. Very interesting. We just had to book in the camper van, whatever. This is Lake Rotorua right behind me here. You know one thing about Rotorua? Whew, it stinks. Man, it stinks, man. It was so smelly. Wherever you walked, it just smelled like eggs. Rotten eggs. Oh, I know what it is. It's the sulfur coming up from underground and all the steam vents everywhere. That's probably it. Because of all these thermal pools and the geysers and everything. That night it was so relaxing. The spa. So we went to the Polynesian spot. It was just a huge pool. There's Byron swimming. This is the spa. The next morning we went to this really amazing church. So we went for a good stroll around
Rotorua's Lake. All these birds were all over the show. There was
swans,
the duck. Take a look at
their planes
taking off from the water. And my mum and I just
walking around relaxing.
after that we went to this amazing place.
Had a good jukebox.
We listened to some nice rock and roll music there. We went to a place,
A Maori village.
Whangaranga or something.
And they had this really good Maori cultural show.
So that was pretty cool.
They had the full deal. They had all the local clothes and all the cultural weapons and stuff they would use. And it was so cool. They were singing all their native songs. All the guys, and they would be swinging these sticks around and... This is something really cool I saw on my travels. How people around the world are preserving their culture, their identity, and just their heritage. And then the ladies would come on and they'd swing their sticks around and just smiling and laughing. Hey, it's amazing. In New Zealand, the population is mostly of European descent, yet the Maoris are still the largest minority. Toss the sticks. And this is where the fun started.
Is everybody volunteers?
Could we please let's have people coming up from the audience?
And I got involved.
Yes, I got up. And they were going to teach us a dance.
They had to do all the movements and that was pretty fun.
And they had all these Maori names for stuff. Your hand was a YY. Or whatever. And then you had to do the dance. Okay, and then they started coming out with this freaky dance. Basically, it was to try and put fear into the hearts of the enemy. So they'd flick out their tongues and say, you look tasty. Yo, this whole freaky dance thing was seriously a team effort. You had the ladies in the background providing their voices, yet at the same time the ladies were popping their eyes out just as much as the guys, and then you had the guys up front doing all these big scary movements. We got ourselves a tour guide
And he took us around.
Very interesting.
This is the tour we'll be going on.
And all around the village, there were these tiny little wooden carvings, these little men, and they were called teko teko. Well, this is the modern village, and all the Maoris are living in it. And there were all these steam vents coming up all over the show. We got to one part, and the steam was so thick. My mom came around, she's like, just flying through. It was just so cool, it's such a different experience. A few things we got up to on this guided tour. We did a lot of walking. So the deal was, this was an actual Maori village. I mean, there were people actually living here. It wasn't just some museum or something. And our guide was actually one of the residents, so he was perfect. He had an in-depth knowledge of the whole workings of this place. There were all these steam vents coming up everywhere, and even the ground was hot. And this is just because of all the thermal activity happening underground. And they had these openings everywhere just to relieve the pressure. Yeah, home cooked meals. Well, actually, Mother Nature cooked meals. They would use the goodness of Mother Nature to do all their cooking. We got to eat naturally cooked corn. They would just put it in this little pool, this hot heated pool, and then it was so good. And they're like, yeah, the sulfur really brings out the flavoring. Probably did, because it was so tasty.
Very interesting.
So I climbed straight into my corn. My mom gave me some time off and she took the camera. There were so many areas where the steam was so thick, it almost felt like we're in one big natural steam bath. Then we met the local carver. It was cool. He showed us his workshop, showed us the different woods he would use, and just told us how he did his job. Cha-cha-cha, carry on with our walk. Yeah, so our tour guide took us to the place where the geyser was and was spitting out a bit of water. After that, they showed us the wood. And then we got to meet the expert on carving.
Very interesting.
Showed us what all the wood was about and what all the different meanings was, what if you go, things like that. And these things were called and he went on to explain how the way they hold their head and tongue could mean different things, like intimidation. Yet, if they're both tilted, the head's tilted to the side,
then it is a sign of welcome.
So if the tongue is pointing at you,
Peculiar form of intimidation. And what you are looking at here, folks, is what we call the kōrero.
Interesting thing about the figures in Maori carving, with very rare exceptions, they are not religious but secular, meaning that they don't represent idols but rather renowned ancestors of the tribe. Yes! We were going luging! So we had to get to the top of the mountain. We called it, you catch a gondola all the way to the top. And once we're there, yay! And then you get luge ride. It was go, go, go. Well, these are those black little things, and they're very clever. There's no brakes on them. It's just forward is parking, middle is neutral to go, and pull it back far to brake. I quickly ran, got my mom in our helmets, and we were gone. This is awesome. There you go. Right on the luge. You can see you go cruising along on these things. Go over here. No, you missed it. You missed the park. What you do is, as you can see, it's in park at the moment. That's neutral and there's brakes. You pull it back to neutral and woo! Woo! It's a bit tricky driving. Oh, there goes my mom. My mom was the camera lady, so she would go ahead and she would get me cruising around the corners on the luge, just come flying by. Then we get to the bottom, and then there was a gondola to take us straight back up to the mountain. Ready for round number 2? Look, we got another ride to the top. What is a luge? Okay, so the word luge comes from the French word for sled. And then getting these little luge cars back up to the top, they would just connect onto the gondola and just hang beneath them. Hi, I'm Byron.
Very interesting.
I really enjoyed this on my travels. You would just bump into and meet friends and people. I was coming up on the gondola and I met this Chinese guy. And we just started chatting. It's like, yo, where you from? Where you from? Oh, it was so cool meeting so many different people. And I think this is the balance I learned on my travels. Being open to meeting new people and having fun, yet at the same time realizing that I had to be cautious and safe. Hey, most of my travels I was traveling by myself, so this is the tightrope I had to learn to walk. And you know what I also learned? You never have to be obligated, like just to put yourself out there. So it's pretty cool being open and being safe. And my mission for the rest of the day, I was just cruising down the hill on this luge and my mom was just chilling on the side filming me. Now the luge is actually used in a sport. It works like this. Competitors lie on a small sled, feet first, they hurdle at up to 90 miles per hour, and the best part? There's no brakes. Okay, there we going again. Wish me luck. Okay, we had the camper van. So as we'd be cruising along, there were so many random stops along the way. Okay, so where's my buddy Haku been? So this is kind of the scene. Now that I'm with my mom, I haven't actually been spending too much time with my little buddy here or taking pictures of him. So this is how his name came about. We went to these falls called Hookah Falls. Okay, Hookah Falls. Just changed the A and the U around. Ta-da! We've got Haku. These falls blew my mind away. They were phenomenal. It's amazing.
But it is awesome.
Very interesting.
This is the most powerful waterfall I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't the biggest, it was just something about it. Firstly, it came down this narrow channel and the water was just rushing through there with such ferocity. It was crazy. And then finally, it would all squeeze through this tiny gap and plunge into this huge pool, and you could see the backwash was crazy. I just stood there for ages, just staring at it, just looking at it. It was like so powerful. It was like, whoa, how powerful is nature? A few of the reasons why these waterfalls were so phenomenal. Basically, a few hundred meters upstream from the falls, the Waikato River narrows from roughly 100 meters into the small little channel, which is only 15 meters across. You do the math. The volume of water flowing through this often approaches at 220,000 liters per second. This is one powerful waterfall. And I was just standing there in awe, mesmerized by this waterfall. And I think it brought to mind a story I heard when I was small. Okay, so the water meets the rock. Who's gonna win? Well, basically the water always wins through perseverance. And I was just looking at this hard rock canyon, yet this waterfall had plunged right through. One of the stops was called the Honey Hive. As you'd walk in, you'd see all the bees making their honey, and throughout this place there were these tubes with the bees just walking everywhere, going about doing their mission. Yet there's one thing that really got me thinking. There was a huge cross-section of the bee, and you could look inside it, and the bee had a bladder, it had a kidney, it had a little optic nerve, and you're like, wow, it's amazing what we take for granted. Even though it's that small, the detail inside of its body. Hey, but these guys are a powerhouse of energy. They can beat their wings at 11,400 times per minute. Another stop was called Craters of the Moon. It did feel like you were on a different planet. As you're walking around, all the steam was just coming up out of the earth. It actually looked like a fire had been there. I went and had a good morning swim. That looks like a very good stop. Let's go there. A prawn farm. Whoa.
Very interesting.
So, we got ourselves a really good tour guide.
My name is Sally.
And then Sally took us around.
This is Old Kiwi. And we opened the doors in 1987.
And then Sally showed us around the prawn farm. Well, they had this thing where they would pump out steam to heat up the water. And then we got to see some of the prawns up close. I was getting hungry this whole time hearing all this talk about the prawns. So yes, finally we got to the prawn restaurant. and they had a good fire going there. And then they brought out the prawns, and I had this gigantic prawn, and my mom and I were just having a feast.
Very interesting. Eat your heart out, Mums. My mom's been generous. Let me having this huge prawn. Biggest prawn I've ever had. Cheers.
So we quickly shoved all the prawns in our face, and then we're on.
So this is Lake Taronga.
And we were heading to our overnight stop, and along the road there was this Kiwi sign. Yeah, that's New Zealand for you. Yeah, so I finally got to see the kiwi. You know, there's actually so much more my mom and I are going to be getting up to in New Zealand. We're going to be going to a Tamaki Maori show. I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to explain that. Then I went to the Agrodome where I tried my hand at milking a cow. It went pretty good. And finally, I learned a little bit about focusing from a dog.